Good morning, everyone. We have 30 seconds left of the morning. Oh, we've reached noon. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. We are right at the noon hour. I see a few folks coming in now. Give it a few more seconds. Right, we have a lot of people trickling in and we're about to get started. I know Candice is going to welcome us to the webinar. Candice, you're on mute right now. We heard you. There we go. I'm back. All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Candice Holford. Thank you for attending our very first MDOT in Motion webinar. To start, while folks are still trickling in, we'll review just a few housekeeping items. Attendees at this time have been muted, but you are able to ask questions in the chat or during our Q&A portion of this webinar at the end. So please place your questions in the chat. Questions will be asked at the end and after everyone has had a chance to present. This session will also be recorded. So if you do not wish to be recorded, please leave before we begin the recording. And those recordings will be made available within 2 weeks, as well as on the website and in our newsletter. So I'll go ahead and give that cue for us to start the recording. You haven't already? Okay, this meeting is now being recorded. So as I mentioned, welcome to MDOT in Motion. MDOT in Motion is a series of webinars, interactive sessions, and educational opportunities offered by the Maryland Department of Transportation's Office of Active Transportation and Micromobility. The purpose of these webinars is to highlight multimodal projects and programs that we're delivering across the state. And these efforts are going to help get Marylanders moving, connecting people to jobs, to schools, to services, and to each other. And doing that through a complete transportation network, which is expanding options for transit, for biking, for walking, rolling, and driving. The content of these webinars are intended to help support a more connected and sustainable transportation network, and they'll be occurring monthly, so stay tuned for more information about what's upcoming. Now I'd like to welcome our Assistant Secretary for Project Development and Delivery, Joe McAndrew, to open with a few words. Joe?
Thank you, Candice. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, we can. Perfect. Thank you all for joining and participating. Thank you to Candice and Meg for your leadership and setting up this discussion and regular cadence for us to engage, learn, and grow together in delivering a safer, more connected transportation system for the state of Maryland. We are excited under the Moore Miller administration and Secretary Wiedefeld's leadership to really be advancing work to build a more complete and connected system that all of us can access safely. That started early days when Candice joined the team, updating our complete streets policy for the first time since the early 2010s and focusing it on all of our modes of transportation and making sure that we are driving it down through all of our policies and manuals down to the project level, and building in transparency and accountability in the process when we make a decision to not provide for kind of that complete infrastructure. There's a rationale and a report on why. That decision is now made by the Secretary, Secretary Wiedefeld, and the program is rapidly building towards implementation this year with the Complete Streets Champions table led by Candice and representation from each of the modes. So we're doing our part, playing catch up with some of our county partners that are at a good spot on the Complete Streets implementation front, but quickly catching and delivering a more complete whole system through a policy and focus on outcomes. Next, you may have missed it, but last week there was a great highway safety summit hosted by our colleagues at MBA. But at that venue, Secretary Wiedefeld announced, and you can see the information on our website at MDOT, an initiative that we're calling Serious About Safety. I think this has been something that the Secretary has been dogged on since we started this administration, that it's not enough to save offender. We're really focused on saving lives, and how we do that and bend the curve towards zero deaths, which is really the goal and the outcome that the General Assembly has identified, and one that we are committed to here at MDOT. We need to get serious about how we deliver this, and that is both in our own capacities. So asking each of our modal agencies as well as the Secretary's team to lean in and think boldly about what we can do within our existing programs to provide for a more safe system. It also means working with and collaborating with our peers throughout the state, elected leaders and transportation leaders, to do what we can to build and deliver and create the conditions for a more safe transportation system. And then finally, taking our voice and advocating for change, whether it be at the federal level, the state level, or in partnership with our locals, thinking about what we can do or what we need to do to change conditions so we can get better behavioral outcomes, and ultimately better transportation outcomes for the system that's safe, saving lives and delivering on our goal of zero deaths. So that's what we're up to. I think this webinar series is an exciting opportunity for us to regularly communicate, engage, and be informed by our partners. So I appreciate the leadership and the vision there set by Candice and Meg to do that. But I appreciate all of you leaning in, partnering, and pushing us together towards delivering a more safe and complete system. So I appreciate your time. I'll hand it back to Candice.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you for dropping in and supporting us through all of this outreach that we've been doing through this office, trying to lift up some of these programs. We'll transition now into the agenda and talk a little bit about what we'll cover today. So happy Bike Month, everyone. We'll give just a quick introduction there, what that means, what we're doing in Maryland. We'll also talk about Commuter Choice, which is a great program, how it functions in Maryland. We'll be able to answer all your questions then. And if we don't, please drop those questions in the chat so that I can facilitate some responses at the end. We'll also touch base with our local partners to see what commuting looks like on the ground in Frederick, Maryland. And then finally, we'll wrap with some biking to work content and talk about MDOT initiatives that are related. And of course, like I mentioned, we'll have a section for Q&A at the end. So now I think I will go over our presenters. My name is Candice Holford. As I mentioned, I'll sort of be moderating this MDOT in Motion webinar. I'm the director of the Office of Active Transportation and Micromobility. We are located at the Secretary's office in Hanover, Maryland. We're also joined by Jamie McKay. She will be giving us some insight into what's going on in Frederick County. Jamie McKay is the Deputy Director of Transit Services of Frederick County. We also have Nikki Tresmonte joining us. She is the TDM coordinator for Commuter Choice Maryland. So a great subject matter expert to get your questions answered there. And then finally, Meg Young, our Deputy Director of Active Transportation and Micromobility, will be giving you the 411 on Bike Month and related MDOT initiatives. So now I think I will hand it off to Meg Young to talk to us about National Bike Month. Meg?
Thank you so much, Candice, and Joe McAndrew for the warm welcome. I'm really excited that we are kicking off MDOT in Motion talking about my favorite subjects, Bike Month and how to bring biking into your everyday life. So a little bit about Bike Month. This is an awareness month and a way for us to really focus as the weather is warming up, thinking about how to bring biking into our lives. There is, of course, Bike to Work Week, but we know that people take more trips than just going to work. Overall, 40% of trips in the US are less than 2 miles, something that can be substituted with a bike in many cases. So it's great to think about not just if you're going to work, but if you're going to visit a friend, if you're going out, ways to substitute those trips on a bike. And I wanted to add a little fun fact in here when I was reading up about National Bike Month, that it was actually cyclists that first advocated in the United States and in Europe to pave roads. This is a recruiting poster that you see on your screen here from the League of American Wheelmen. In the 1900s, this switched over to car advocates as well, but they had what was called the Good Roads movement. I like to think of it as the predecessor to what we now think of as complete streets, which are good roads, roads that serve everyone. So this month has been in celebration since 1955. Now, in Maryland, we recently received a proclamation from Governor Moore declaring Bike to Work Week officially here in Maryland. Bike to Work Week is May 13th to 19th, 2025. And we're urging everyone to participate. It's a way to get out and be active, improve your own personal health. It's a way to reduce emissions, switching a trip that could be made in a car and instead doing it on a bike. It's going to reduce greenhouse gases and health impacts for not only yourself, but everyone in your community. Again, a big emphasis of this month is to promote just awareness, make sure people know to share the road. So those trips that you can't make in a bike, it might not be possible to make every trip on a bike, you can still look out for others on the road. And then, of course, improving transportation equity. In Maryland, not everyone has access to a car, and we want all Marylanders to be safe on our roadways. So a few things to look out for next week when it's Bike to Work Week. We have 2 big celebrations going on in Maryland. We take part of both Bike to Work Week in Metro DC, as well as Bike to Work Week Central Maryland. So both have websites, and we are going to post these slides on the website so you can click on all the links, but you can also check out the local events by going to these websites. Again, Bike to Work Week, Bike to Work Central Maryland, and Bike to Work DC. There's a lot of different activities. We'll go over a few of them, but they range from rides, pit stops, which is where you can stop by, get some giveaways on your way, and then meetups and bike activities. So what do I mean by that? Next week on Tuesday here at the MDOT headquarters, we'll be having a pit stop in front of our building. We'll have a table set up with safety information, safety giveaways, some light refreshments, and then we will hear a safety talk before actually going out on a ride at noon. We are very fortunate here at the headquarters. We have the BWI Hiker Biker Trail. In case y'all did not know, we are the only airport in the nation to have a bike loop around it. and along the way, a lot of parks and places. My favorite one is when you can stop and see kids and their parents watching the planes take off. So it's an excellent resource that we have right next to our headquarters, a 12-mile loop around BWI. Then the events really kick into high gear on May 15th. I won't read all of this to you, but many counties across Maryland are participating, from Metro DC area, Montgomery and Prince George's County, up to Frederick. We will hear more about the Frederick activities from Jamie McKay. And then some things that are a little different than just a ride or a pit stop. Bike More in Baltimore City is having a spoke and word tales, so people can come share their stories about biking, and join in some camaraderie and fun. May 16th is Bike to Work Day for Central Maryland. And again, we're seeing a lot of participation across the state. The Baltimore City Mayor's Press Conference, downtown Annapolis, as well as a lot of partners in Harford County and Howard County. MDOT's State Highway Administration has 2 pit stops. You can stop by their headquarters in Baltimore County to get safety information and giveaways, as well as, again, taking advantage of our BWI loop. Along the loop will be not only MDOT, but our bikers, friends can stop by, again, stop for a refreshment, safety giveaways, and celebrate biking and biking safely. So with that, I want to hand it over to Nikki Trasmonte to talk about Commuter Choice Maryland. Again, you can't necessarily bike everywhere, so we want you to know about all of your multimodal options and how they can work together. So Nikki, I'll hand it to you.
Thank you, Meg, for that great introduction. Like Meg said before, I will speak to Commuter Choice Maryland, and I'm currently the TDM coordinator. So you can go next slide. Just a little bit about our program. We were relaunched in 2018. We are a free statewide program of the Maryland Department of Transportation in the Office of Planning, Programming, and Project Delivery. We help employers set up commuter benefits. We also encourage the public to use better commuting options other than driving alone. And we also manage statewide commuter programs. So as you can see on the map, there's a network of 12 local jurisdictions that provide specialized support to local communities, employers, and organizations with their commuting needs. The next slide, we also have an employer partner program. So it is our free program. It's an opportunity for Maryland employers to be recognized for their efforts in promoting sustainable transportation and commuter benefits to their employees. So if any employers are on the call today and you're interested in joining, I'll drop our Commuter Choice Maryland email so you can contact us. The next slide, please. We also have a Maryland commuter tax credit. So Maryland employers that provide subsidies for their employees can be eligible for this tax credit, and they can earn tax credit savings. So the next slide. So I also want to mention yesterday we launched our new Ride Together Rewards program. So first we have a van pool incentive program, which eligible van pools will receive a $500 monthly incentive. And then there's also a carpool incentive. So eligible carpools will receive $5 a day for the first 90 days. So it's a really great way for commuters in the region to save money and also work towards a sustainable commute. So I'll drop the links in the chat to learn more. We also have a June webinar coming up on commuter incentives. So if you're interested in registering, I can drop the link in the chat as well. So thank you so much for your time, and I'll pass it off to Jamie to speak about Frederick County.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jamie McKay, and I am the Deputy Director and Chief Morale Officer here at Transit Services of Frederick County in beautiful Frederick, Maryland. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we participate with Commuter Choice, as well as some of the multimodal efforts that we're undertaking here in Frederick. So a little bit about transit. Transit is an award-winning countywide public transit system serving residents of all municipalities and communities here in Frederick County. Our goal is to provide safe, reliable, and accessible transportation throughout the county and link to other multimodal paths. We understand that transit cannot serve everyone, and as Nikki was talking about, commuter choice is a really great way to facilitate vehicle miles traveled reductions from here in Frederick and places farther out. Go ahead to the next slide. So, a couple fun facts about Frederick Transit. Did you know that we have been operating fare-free since March 2020? We served over 840,000 riders during FY24, and we are on track to serve over 900,000 riders during FY25. We're hoping the number will be a little bit higher than that, 925,000 rides, which is the highest that we've ever seen since transit was founded in 1993. Not too shabby. All of our transit buses are equipped with lifts or ramps, making them accessible, as well as having bike racks on the front, being able to transport your bicycle and extend your commute. We have rural shuttles that connect to places like Point of Rocks, Emmitsburg and Thurmont, and Brunswick and Jefferson, understanding that people in rural areas often have different transportation challenges. We have major stops here in Frederick at FCC, Hood College, Mount St. Mary's, the Monroe Center, and we have major transfer hubs at the Frederick Mark Station, where we're hosting our Bike to Work Day, Frederick Town Mall at Boscov's, where we're building a new transfer facility, and at FSK Mall. Next slide. So we provide more than just fixed route service. While we do have fixed routes, we have our rural shuttles. We have our urban shuttles as well that provide more of a commuter type service for folks. We have Transit Plus, which is our paratransit service for older adults and people with disabilities. And we supplement that with our Taxi Access program, which provides additional travel options for these customers through our local taxi providers. And to really tie it all together, we have a carpool and vanpool program, as well as an employer outreach program, which builds off of what Commuter Choice does and provides employers and employees with additional information on options such as tax incentives, telework options, and better commutes for their prospective and current employees. Next slide. So we go beyond the bus. We like to say that, and we help facilitate many new van pools, which extends the reach of our program and reduces vehicle miles traveled here in Frederick County, where we find that many people are commuting out of the county. We offer a financial subsidy to help fill van pools, and we assist riders in finding and starting new van pools. Some of the current van pool routes starting in Frederick County go as far as Fort Belvoir. That's quite a ride, and it's nice that they're not doing it alone. Go ahead to the next slide. We also help people connect with ride sharing and carpooling. We like to say we're matchmakers, and we encourage people to sign up for the Guaranteed Ride Home program, which is an important option for those of us who are commuting by public transportation, by vanpooling, or by carpooling. And this allows for up to 6 free rides per year. I'll drop information about Guaranteed Ride Home in the chat. Next slide. We often hear that riding the bus can be intimidating, especially if this is something that you haven't had to do before. So we offer what's called a travel training program, where we can take you out, whether it's me as the deputy director, all the way down to one of our dispatchers or drivers, and show you how to ride the bus with ease and confidence. This program was developed in the 1970s to encourage people with disabilities to learn how to ride public transportation and expand their freedom. And now we can take anyone out and teach them how to do tasks such as riding independently, learning how to plan a trip, learning how to read a bus schedule and better understand how to navigate, learning tools like Google Transit, and having more independence. The first time we take you out, we'll go as a group and we'll walk through this. And oftentimes our riders are able to do this with no issue. This program is completely free, and many other transit agencies across Maryland offer something similar. I encourage you to give it a try in your community. Next slide. Now, something I got to brag about a little bit is that on Thursday, May 15th, you can find me and about 300 of my closest friends waking up at the crack of dawn for Bike to Work Day at the Frederick Mark train station. We will be there providing information on local plans and priorities, along with our colleagues from the city of Frederick, that focus on multimodal transportation. We'll have fun giveaways. We'll learn about Operation Lifesaver. We'll learn about railroad safety. And we'll hear more from community organizations who find that transit and biking are a great match to get people out of their single occupancy vehicles and onto our safer streets. So I appreciate the opportunity to share with you, and I hope to see you on board. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Jamie, and thank you, Nikki, for really helping us see how we can really combine biking, commuting, and take advantage of so many different options. So we're back to me, Meg, and yes, this is me pictured here as well. You might see some resemblance when I put my hand like this. So to talk about how to bike to work and take advantage of all of these opportunities together. I would also like to brag that I took advantage of these opportunities just 2 days ago, the Guaranteed Ride Home program. I commute via bike and then hop on the Mark. And on Tuesday, there were some issues with the Mark service, so I took advantage of Guaranteed Ride Home. The advantage then is if you rely on transit or you rely on biking and something goes wrong, you can call and get that guaranteed ride home, which means a free taxi ride. You can get up to 6 per year if something from your normal commute changes. And it might be something like what happened with the service, or it might be something in your personal life. If you need to get home for childcare reasons unexpectedly, if you're a caretaker, if there's anything where your schedule has changed and you're normally reliant on biking or on taking transit, you can get a ride home through that program just by making a call. So it's really great and it works. So a little bit about how to bike to work to celebrate next week. Biking to Work 101. There's really 3 buckets that I put bike safety into. You need to have a safe bike, you need to pick a safe route, and then you need to ride safely. And if you can cover all 3 of these, you're going to have a safe trip. So a little bit about having a safe bike. First of all, get a bike that fits you. Not all bikes are made equally. That doesn't mean you have to get the most expensive bike, but you need to think about the geometry and what makes you comfortable. These days, you can also get an e-bike that it's shown people extend their average bike trip from being 2 or 3 miles to being up to 10 miles with that e-assist. Purists sometimes think that's cheating, but it's really not if that's helping you make a longer trip and substitute a trip in a car for a bike. So there's a lot of good options. Going to a bike shop if you are buying your first bike or don't know a ton about them is going to be your best bet. But then I do a lot of shopping for bikes on Facebook Marketplace. Annually, you should have a bike tune-up from a professional, but there's also something you can do every time you ride, which is an ABC quick check. And this is for every bike, your own personal bike, or if you're riding on a bike share, you need to take a moment and give an overview of your vehicle. And it's pretty quick. Especially if you're doing a bike share, make sure you adjust the seat to be the right height, and then do these simple checks. A stands for air in your tires. You want to make sure they're properly inflated. If they're underinflated, your tires can actually swerve from underneath of you, and if they're overinflated, you risk possibly getting a flat along the way. B is for brakes. When you're riding your bike, your brake is your #1 safety tool. You need to be able to stop when you see an obstacle or something unexpected happens. So it's pretty simple. You squeeze your brakes and make sure it works. But a lot of bikes, like the one conveniently behind me, have a little flip And if you've put your bike on a bus, if you put it in the back of the car, if you've, had to dig it out from behind a box in your garage, it could have gotten flipped up and your brakes might not be engaged. So you test each brake individually and make sure they work. Finally, C is for chain. Give your pedals just one go around, make sure it's functioning smoothly. If all of those things work, your A, B, C, you're going to be able to have a safe ride. There might still be other issues with shifting or something that you should really take to a professional, but if you can cover your ABCs, you're going to at least be able to make the trip safely. The next step is making sure you have a safe route. And the most simple way to do this is to go into your mapping program on your phone, whatever it is, iMaps or Google Maps, and there's actually a biking layer that you can put on. Your bike routes are then going to show up with the darker lines being the most safe facilities, and all ages and abilities facility, we would say. Here we can see the loop that goes around the BWI airport. And it's a dark color because it's totally separated from cars. It is what we would call a transportation trail. And you could take a kid out. Again, I love seeing kids watching the planes take off at all these parks around the airport. But you can turn on the biking layer and then actually toggle when you're looking for directions to get them by bike. But then you should still use your best judgment. It's going to suggest a route to you. And if you have the time to really make the best route, I recommend, honestly, putting a post on Facebook or on a bike advocacy group, because if there's one thing that bikers like to talk about, it's biking. It's getting other people on bikes. So if you say, hey, I am trying to get to this place and then to my work, what do y'all think of this route? I guarantee you're going to get plenty of answers and suggestions, because there's a lot of lived experience where people will say, sure, Google Maps will tell you to go this way, but the cars always cut you off at this particular intersection, or right now there's some construction going on, so you'll have to make a detour. They will really share with you their experience, because again, bikers love to talk about biking. And then again, your first time riding a new route, you should give yourself time. You're biking to work for the first time. Don't think you can just do it in the exact amount of time that Google says. Either go test it out on a weekend when you're not in a rush to get to work, or really give yourself some extra time. And then as you learn it, you're going to learn that actually when you're biking, you don't have to worry as much about traffic jams or that time really differing. When you bike every day, you get pretty much the same amount of time, and your commute time really does not vary as much, because it's just you and your pedals. So a little bit about, again, why you might make a decision as a biker to maybe not ride if there's in a bike lane, or to come out of it. I thought this is really funny. Something to consider if you're wondering why a biker is making a choice. There's a lot of different things that might lead them to actually leave the bike lane and go into the car lane. Quite frequently, someone might be parked there. There might be a pothole, or if you're making a turn and you have to leave it. But how can we bike safely? This is the last bucket. We've got a safe bike, we've got a safe route, and now we actually have to get out there and do it. And before I even go through these tips, I want to say the Washington Area Bicyclist Association is doing a couple of bike safety courses coming up next week. You can check out their website. This is in partnership with their youth ambassadors. So it will be at I think it's Bellow Springs and Northwestern High School. So you can actually go out there and get hands-on practice biking safely. Again, this is the Washington Area Bicyclist Association, but there's other bike advocacy organizations out there like Bike More in Baltimore City, or Bike AAA, which is Bike Advocates for Anne Arundel County, that do these education courses and can help you practice in a safe setting. But if you know how to ride a bike, you're just getting out for the first time in a while, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. First and foremost, be seen and be predictable. To be seen, make sure you have lights. If you're riding at night, that is required legally in Maryland. You can wear bright colors. And then to be predictable, quite simply, follow the rules of the road. If everybody is actually following the rules of the road, people biking, people walking, people driving, then we all know what to expect of each other. And it makes sharing the road a lot more seamless. So if you are stopping, following the lights, people are going to know how to respond to you. You can also use your turn signals. If we think back to the picture that started off this section, I was about to make a turn, and that's why my hand was out. Quite simply, your turn signals, if you are turning, you point in the direction that you are going. Previously, people used to raise your left hand to turn right, the old driving signals, but I find that nowadays, for simplicity, you just point in the direction you're going. You make a hand signal, and then people tend to understand. To be predictable, you should also just ride in as straight of a line as possible. It is tempting sometimes to kind of get as close to the curb or as close to cars as you can as a biker, because you want to feel safe next to the side of the road. But you should give yourself about 3 feet from a car door in case it opens, and you should also avoid weaving in and out of the bike lane. It might be that there's the parking lane, sorry. There might be a car parked and then a big gap before the next parked car, and it's really tempting to then get closer to the curve and come back out. But when you do that, you end up having to merge again. You're trying to get back to where you were, you're looking over your shoulder, and it actually creates a safety issue. So if you can just ride in a straight line, it's going to be the safest and, again, the most predictable for everyone. When riding in a group, you also want to communicate. When you're riding in a group, of course, you're using your turn signals, but if something comes up like a pothole and you need to swerve, you need to use your voice and let people know what you're doing. A bike-on-bike crash is not going to end well either. So if you're riding in a group, you need to think of yourself as a team. And then last but not least, consider a box turn or an L turn. And this is the diagram that's on this slide that keeps you from having to really merge all the way across traffic. It can be quite difficult if you're riding all the way to the right of the roadway to make a left-hand turn on a bike. You're going to have to merge, look over your shoulder. So instead, you can do an L turn. You stay all the way to the right, and when you get to the intersection where you're hoping to make a left, you actually go further to the right, and you join in the traffic on the intersecting road. You turn there and then go when they have the right of way. So when you do that, you don't have to slowly merge over lane by lane, but you get the opportunity to have a 90-degree angle and easily look for oncoming traffic and then safely cross, whether it's with the lights or if there's a stop sign once the cars have stopped. And again, at a 90-degree angle, it's a lot easier to see, and you're not straining your neck, looking over your shoulder, maybe missing somebody in your blind spot. So this is what I frequently do, especially if you're going to have to merge several lanes on your bike. Because you're moving slower, it's just really difficult. So you go further to the right and then look at where you're going head on to make a much safer turn. But overall, you need to ride defensively. You need to always keep your head on a swivel and take your safety seriously. You are gonna lose in a collision on a bike. So think of your safety first and foremost and ride defensively. All right, so we have a safe bike, we have a safe route. We know how to ride safely. Now we're trying to get to work. A few things, what to wear, honestly, whatever you want. I wore this today on my bike. I'm wearing shoes with a heel. I'm wearing dress pants. But there's a couple of things that made that possible. a chain guard. A chain guard is what's pictured in the top here, and that's going to hold your pants tighter so it doesn't end up on your chain, possibly getting caught or getting bike grease on it. And then bright colors and reflectivity. I have bright colors just in a light colored blazer today, but when I ride at night, I always have lights, and then my commuting backpack has reflectors on it, so people will see me on the roadway for those winter months when it's dark after work. For carrying my stuff, I have that backpack, which is great, but if I'm carrying a lot of stuff, I also have a rack on my bike so I don't have to strain my back or get sweaty going into work. Waterproof bags are key, as well as containers for food that are not going to spill. Brought gazpacho in for lunch today, and I had to make sure I had a really airproof container because it is going to get jostled around on a bike. And then lastly, it's always good to be a little prepared for the worst. Hope it doesn't happen, but having a patch kit for your tires, having bungee cords in case you pick something up that you can put on your rack, and also to ride on the MARC train. And then, although lights are only required at night, you can always keep them on hand in case you make a stop after work, in case unexpected stop on the way home. You should always have those lights with you. And then consider being multimodal. MTA, WMATA, and most locally operated transit systems all allow you to bring your bikes on transit these days. We saw on Jamie's slides that there's a rack on the front of the bike. If you look up on MDOT MTA's website, they have a really good video about how to do that. It can be really intimidating the first time, but every time I've done it, the bus drivers are so kind. They wait for you, you pull up a handle, you bring the rack down, put your bike up, and then it's right in front of the bus driver. So they really keep an eye out for you. Intimidating the first time, but once you get the hang of it, really easy to bring your bike on a bus or even on the MARC train here in Maryland. For the MARC train, you can bring your bike on every train now, not just the bike car. They have a couple different racks, and when you're boarding the train, you just look for that green bike light to bring your bike in. You could also consider a local bike share option. Here in Maryland, we have not only Capital Bike Share extending into Prince George's County and Montgomery County, but we also have dockless vehicles in Baltimore City, the Lime bikes and spin bikes, as well as in Annapolis. Aberdeen has the scooter system, and a lot of great options that, again, can fill in for a short part of your trip. And then when you get where you're going, locking your bike, quite simply, a U-lock is the safest lock out there. And you always want to make sure you're locking one of the triangles. If you lock one of the triangles, it's going to be secure on your bike frame. And if you start to bike every day, you're going to find the covered and secure parking options. For example, at Penn Station in Baltimore City, there are 2 different bike parking options. One of them has a guard station next to it. So that is if you're going towards the parking garage, you actually go through the parking garage gates, and then there is bike parking there that is secure and guarded. So once you start going pretty frequently, you'll find these more secure parking options. Pictured here is at MDOT headquarters. We actually have bike lockers. So you get your own personal key and get this covered bike parking spot if you bike to work consistently. And sometimes this bike parking is not evident, but a lot of employers are participating in transportation demand management and Commuter Choice Maryland and do have these options for their employees. So last but not least, a little bit about all of our MDOT biking initiatives in one place. Again, we're going to post these all on the website, but we have an ever-expanding bike program at MDOT, from planning, funding, and education. Planning, Our 2050 Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan is really our guiding document about everything we're hoping to achieve in the state of Maryland to make biking and walking safer and more accessible for everyone. We have particular planning programs. The bicycle and pedestrian priority areas is for local jurisdictions if they are looking to make a specific area more safe for people to walk and bike. Recently, Catonsville designated part of their main street to be a bicycle and pedestrian priority area, and that is going to mean that they get help from the State Highway Administration and more competitive for funds related to biking and walking. We have our Maryland Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee that meets quarterly. So if there is a particular concern, you can always join one of those public meetings that advise all Maryland state agencies that interact with walking and biking. And then we are working on a statewide transportation trails plan right now. So this is to develop really, again, the safest infrastructure for walking and biking is a transportation trail separated from the roadway, a designated place for walking and biking that is physically separated from motor vehicles. Once your bicycle and pedestrian facilities are planned, we also have a lot of funding opportunities. Applications are open right now for the Kim Lamphere Bikeways Network program. This is an opportunity for local jurisdictions to bring their priorities, apply for funding, whether it's on a local road or a state road. We offer funding for planning, design, minor retrofits, and construction. Minor retrofit meaning an upgrade to a facility, a state of good repair to a facility. Local jurisdictions can also apply for the bicycle retrofit fund, and so that is to add bicycle facilities to a state highway, as well as the federal funding that flows through the Maryland Department of Transportation through the Transportation Alternatives and Recreational Trails program. And then last but not least, education. You can plan it, you can build it, but sometimes people still need to learn about how to bike safely. And that falls under the Motor Vehicle Administration. Our Maryland Highway Safety Office has a Bike Smart program and offers safety grants. So a lot of these learn to ride programs, like the upcoming Washington Area Bicyclist Association's bike safety program, they can apply for a safety grant to fund those activities. So that is to educate people, to encourage people, to give out bike lights, to give out helmets. You can apply to the Maryland Highway Safety Office, whose emphasis is really on creating behavioral change and teaching people to be safe on our roadways. So all this is available on our website, and it will be posted if you want these direct links. So with that, we are right on time for a little bit of Q&A. I've seen a little bit coming through on the chat, but I will hand it to Candice to let us know what people are asking.
Awesome. Thanks, Meg and Nikki and Jamie. That was a lot of information, but luckily we have a slide deck that you all can reference and a recording as well. A couple of questions, as you mentioned, did come through the chat, and I see we've gotten to a few of them, so I'll just go ahead and read them out loud and give Jamie and Nikki a chance to address it on camera for the rest of the group. One question we received: any reasons why the van pools all head from Frederick to some point in the Washington metropolitan area and not to Baltimore, Central Maryland? That would be for you, Jamie.
All right. So these are a list of the van pools that have reached out to transit services to request assistance with forming or with the subsidy that we provide for new van pools. We are more than excited to have van pools that head to Central Maryland and to Baltimore. So we encourage folks, if they are interested, to definitely reach out.
Excellent. Thank you. Again, another one for you, Jamie. The work in Frederick is inspiring. How many staff do you have working on your carpool, van pool, or non-bus programs?
We are a small but mighty crew here in Frederick County. We have one dedicated staff member who focuses on what we call transportation demand management, or TDM efforts, and we have other staff who help share resources and information with the community.
Awesome. And maybe I toss that question to you, Meg and Nikki, as well.
Yeah, here at Commuter Choice, I am the TDM coordinator, so I focus on employer outreach, and we also have Brittany Brothers and Michelle Martin on our team as well.
Great. That's another small but mighty team.
Yes.
Meg, what about our team?
Our team is small and mighty as well. Our Office of Active Transportation and Micromobility, you and myself, as well as we are hiring right now for an active transportation planner. But what I heard from both Nikki and Jamie is that the power of collaboration, right? So if there's only one person in Frederick County who is dedicated to setting up those van pools and carpools, it sounds like they have other people who are the specialists in the resources who go out and do the travel training. And even today, we're talking about how to take biking and combine it with commuting. So I think it's a lot about collaboration and working together. When I formerly worked at Baltimore City, we also had one travel demand manager, but they were housed in our transit bureau and worked very closely with everyone who worked on our Charm City circulator and our bike planner, because those are all commuting options. And they were the one just responsible for helping the employer or the commuter make those connections. So small and mighty, but working together.
Good. It's great to have that perspective and understanding. Another question. The only challenge with bringing a bike aboard the MARC train at the West Baltimore station is that there are only 2 to 3 cars where you can board because of the short platform, and the 4 or so bike racks in those cars are usually taken up pretty quickly. I'm pretty familiar with that. I'm sure you are, Meg.
So there are upgrades coming to the West Baltimore MARC station, not only the ADA upgrades that are going to make it easier for you to take your bike up to the station, but we're also kicking off a transit-oriented development study that's going to make the whole area a lot more accessible, and that includes making biking and walking to get there more accessible. I believe the platforms are going to be longer, but I recommend really talking to the attendants on the train. I've become really good friends with the ones I ride with every morning. But if you ask them if there's another green light further down the car, they might let you take your bike through the train. They've let me do that before to get to the next place. Their main concern is that once the train is in motion, it's secured. So they can often say, okay, we'll pause until you can get to that car, that train car, and safely secure your bike. Might not work every time if they're running behind schedule, but they're usually really willing to help you get on there and get on there safely. And again, what you've noted is that the new station is coming and we'll have, I think, better and more compliant facilities to make that easier.
Great. Thanks for that update. Another question, prior to 2017, you could swipe your MDOT ID and ride DC Metro and DC buses at no cost. Why did that change?
I think we'll probably have to follow up
I wonder if we
with
have,
this
yeah,
question. Mhm.
I feel like we might be missing someone who could help us answer that question, but we can definitely follow up on that. Another question, how do you all address poor sidewalk infrastructure in your communities? That's a great question. Um, Pretty loaded question, but if it's going to MDOT, I think we'd probably start by saying we look to the local jurisdictions, but our role is really to provide, to make that easier, right? So one way that we're doing that is opening up our mapping system that references all of these features like sidewalks, like bus stops, opening that up to the local jurisdiction so that we could start to collect the data, understand where these issues are, and as a next phase or subsequent phase, what the condition of those facilities are. So our sidewalk data collaboration effort was stood up maybe a year ago or so, and we are actively working with local jurisdictions to train them on entering that data so that we can start to have a better statewide picture. But I definitely think at the local level, there's a attention to those issues, and we are able to work with them to get the data and combine that into a more composite picture. Meg, I know you work pretty closely with the team on that. Anything to add?
Yeah, well, Clayton, I would encourage you to really participate in Walktober, which is when we have actually weekly webinars dedicated to walking in the state of Maryland and how we address things like sidewalk infrastructure. It's a lot of great resources. But we have a lot of similar funding sources to what's available for biking, available for walking as well. We have the Bicycle Retrofit Fund. We also have a Sidewalk Retrofit Fund. And so if a local community sees a deficit on a state highway, they can go in, and this is a rolling application on the State Highway Administration's website, and bring up the issue, and they'll investigate the feasibility of improving the sidewalk. On local roads, we also have grant opportunities available through the Transportation Alternatives Program. And there's a couple of different criteria, but especially things like the Safe Routes to Schools program is to address sidewalks in really the most crucial areas around schools. Up to 2 miles within the vicinity of schools are very eligible and competitive applications. So we really try to make sure that local jurisdictions know about these opportunities. Every year before the grant cycle, we go around the states and have what we call a grants roadshow, where we speak to local jurisdictions about what issues, what challenges they're facing, and possible funding opportunities. So we're really, again, trying to provide this technical assistance, provide knowledge to communities if they want to see change. And if you get any of the designations, like the best bicycle and pedestrian priority areas or sustainable communities designation, there are other funds through our partner agencies for sidewalks. The Department of Housing and Community Development actually has a sidewalk fund available. So if you've gone through one of their designations, like sustainable communities, you're eligible for sidewalk funds.
Excellent. Thanks, Meg. It looks like we have maybe 30 seconds left. I'll just throw one more question out there. This one probably will go to Nikki. You mentioned a little bit about upcoming engagement opportunities for Commuter Choice Maryland. Are there any that we should know about? I know that we are going to have some materials at our pit stops on Commuter Choice, so definitely encourage folks to find your local pit stop or come on over to TSO, pick up some materials. But where can we find out more about upcoming engagement opportunities, or just contact you for more information, Nikki?
Yeah, I can drop the website for Commuter Choice in the chat. I know that for this month there's a couple of Bike to Work Month events in Howard County, so I could plug those in as well. And I think we also have an event at another state agency, the Comptroller's Office. So I will send those events out, and yeah, and I will send the follow-up email as well if anyone's interested in our employer partner program, if any employers are on the call and they have questions about that.
Excellent. Thank you, Nikki. Okay, well, I think that wraps it up for our Q&A. I hope that I've gotten to everyone's questions in the chat. We will be providing the meeting materials online, in addition to the recording. And again, this Q&A, including questions that we have to follow up on, we'll provide all of that online for you. Please join us at our next webinar. It will be on June 5th. The topic is Complete Streets, but it's not going to be your average Complete Streets webinar. You may or may not have been on a few in the last year or two. So please stay tuned for more information about that. As I mentioned, if we didn't get to your question, we will reach out to you individually and also post follow-ups with our meeting materials. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at the email address provided on this slide, completestreets@mdot.maryland.gov. We can get you to where you need to go if it's not about complete streets. So thank you again for joining us. I believe that covers all the content for today, and we look forward to seeing you on June 5th. Happy Bike Month.
Happy Bike Month, everyone.